those are hard for a man whenever,
And
how is it that a man or a woman can get pregnant,
yeah,
and if the dad doesn't want the baby, he's still liable for child support or, some
and
sort of custody thing afterwards. But a woman
yeah,
can terminate a pregnancy at their own given time
yeah.
or whatever.
And
And
and the thing about it is what's crazy is like, you know, in order for the father to not be allowed, they have to go through that entire court process of giving up rights. You know what I mean? Like to
yeah.
sign their rights away. Like it's a whole bunch of things. We'll just sign your rights away. I was like, you don't understand what that entails. It's not an easy thing. You know what I mean? It's a
Hmm.
process to do that. And and personally, obviously, yeah, I get like if you want to just not be responsible, that's your choice. I think it's wrong. It's like, you need to just step up and be a dad, obviously.
Yeah.
But then it's like but the other side of the equation, you have the mom who has all control of that situation, obviously depending on the state. And it's like, well, hold up. Why doesn't it took, it's a 50-50 combination of to make this child. Why is it
Yeah.
100% now control over the fate of this child? And
Yeah.
that's what's bullshit.
Yeah, but it's like, well, some states you can't even terminate your parental rights unless there's someone that's going to adopt. So, regardless if you want it or not,
Really?
yeah, there's areas that you can't even terminate, or maybe you can terminate, but you're still liable for it or something. I don't remember. It was a conversation that we had, me and someone had at one point in time. But yeah, which is weird. But the woman has all decision to terminate or keep, where the man has, no qualms against it. Like you can't say one way or another. It doesn't fucking matter. You looking it up?
Okay, so this is what I typed in. I said, are there states that you can't sign away your rights for your child at will? Because that's basically what we're
Hmm.
asking.
Yeah,
No, there are no US states where a parent can unilaterally sign away their parental rights for a child at will via private agreement, form, or contract that takes effect without court involvement. And that's a weird way to put that. I'm not sure if it's saying yes or no. No,
as far as
there are no US states where a parent can unilaterally sign away their parental rights for a child at will via private agreement, form, or contract. Can you understand that? Because I'm not
yeah,
caught.
it's saying that you can't sign away. You can't just sign your rights away. You can't
Okay.
just decide to sign your rights. Which I know that there's limitations on that. I know that there's ways that you could, I guess, technically do it. I believe, but I think that in most circumstances there has to be another individual that would take over that side of the rights, whether it's a grandparents or whatnot.
Or if the mom is willing, obviously, to do it, to take on full.
I don't think you can just give it to the mom. Maybe you
Well,
can,
why
or
not? If the mom is, automatic custody in the end.
yeah, which is back to like what I was saying, like that bill that was written that I wrote. Like, I think child support's a shitty fucking. I think it should be go off of either the parent that makes the most, if they want primary custody because they don't need child support, then they should get custody of the children as a primary. Or if a parent, because I think that if a parent needs child support, I think that I'm trying to think of how to say this without being a complete fucking asshole.
Shut up.
If you choose to be a parent, so if I'm a parent in my house and there's someone that's the other side of the parenting agreement in another house, and my outlook is if one doesn't need child support, then that should be the one that gets the primary custody of the kids, because obviously they can't parent without that other individual's support, where one party can say, okay, well, I can completely do it. Because look, in my house, I'm going to have to provide the house, the mortgage, the lights, the water, the food, the resources, the clothing, everything. And they have to do it at their house as well. Why is it that if we're both the parents, why am I having to pay that person, whether they make the same amount as me or near the same amount of me? Because look, I could, even after me paying what I pay in child support every month, I could still, even with paying that, I could still turn around and I could raise the kids 100% by myself without child support.
And
And
and so I think about it in two different scenarios, right? Like I agree with what you're saying. So here's two ways. Here's like the perfect world scenario, which is like, obviously we could probably never get to this perfect world scenario. And then here's a scenario that is like, it's like, with your bills. Damn, I heard that one. um,
Yeah, there's some good
uh,
ones.
um, here and then here's one of the scenarios that like I'm willing to accept. I don't, again, I still think it's like too much in the end, but like I'm willing to accept this notion as like one of those, quote unquote bipartisan ways to look at it, right? One, it's like, look, you have the when the children are with you, if you're in the same area right there, like a true 50-50, right?
Mhm.
Then when the kids are with you, you're responsible for taking care of the kids. When the kids are with the other one, then they're responsible for taking care of the kids, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
how it should be, right? Now, when it comes to like maybe splitting costs for a course, medical extracurriculars, that's one thing, but like as far as taking care of things while they're with you just everyday living, then that's like no, that's on you. You should take care of your kids, right?
Yeah.
Here's the scenario I'm willing to accept. Not It's not a perfect world scenario, obviously, but like how when you yeah, based on the states, right? Obviously, but like you get divorced and you have alimony or spousal support, depending on how it goes, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, I don't know much about it because I'm not in the situation, thankfully. Whenever the spouse who is receiving alimony or spousal support, when they get remarried, that ends, right? From the previous one.
Not necessarily. Some
But sometimes it can, right? Like depending how
yeah,
it's set up.
yeah,
So
yeah.
here's my thing, right? Now, if we were to go in a, let's say, meet in the middle scenario, right? Like we get divorced and obviously, we're going from a dual income household, sometimes even a single income household, just depending on its setup. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, and you split and now maybe the now ex-wife who maybe wasn't working is forced to get a job, obviously, and now you're paying child support, to help offset a little bit, not like, level out the playing field like it was, but offset a little bit, whatnot. But when they get remarried and they have another income come in, it's like, okay, because like when I will get remarried, that I brought in two more kids, my stepkids, but that
Yeah,
doesn't get taken into effect, right? And
correct.
then when they get remarried and they have another income, and then they have why doesn't that get taken to effect? It's like, no, they have now a full household income now. It's like, what, why is this now, like that would be like one of those things like, let's
Well,
terminate that. You know what I mean?
let me set you back there. Okay. So let's say you're a single house, you're either the single household or single income household or whatnot, and you get a divorce. Why isn't it that the main provider, why doesn't they get automatic custody of the kids
No, I
if
agree with
if
you.
they want?
I agree with
Because
you.
then because you could eliminate all child support by giving the option of either the highest earner, or if they don't want to be primary, then it reverts to the other parent and then child support would kick in. Or, it should be asked, do you need child support? No. Do you need child support? No. Then, that's where they look at the highest wage earner or the best possible situation. Or they could say, if one parent says, you know what, I want child support now, well, then they give the other parent that option. Hey, they want child support. Do you want full custody or primary custody? Yeah, I want primary custody. Okay, well, now there's no child support. It would take the government out of our lives because they wouldn't have to regulate that shit.
Yeah. And God, and just how they track child support as a whole, and I mean, hell with me, like when I got divorced, um, I was still in the military, right? Which how getting updating military records and stuff like
Yeah.
that is it can go one of two ways. You can find someone that'll do it on the spot and make sure also, or you find someone that's incompetent and for some reason it just doesn't get done. And you're constantly following up that person like, oh, I did it. And I'm like, well, look, if it's not showing up tomorrow, then call me back. And then again, it's still not fucking done. Like 10 months later, right? So when I go through mine, and you get the notification of, or not the notification, you get the form saying, hey, Cole, this is where you're gonna, you know, get your, I guess, in the Air Force. Well, I want to say not just the Air Force. I think it's military wide, but specifically me. Um, it's kind of required that you get the auto draft for child support from your paycheck. Like that's just a military thing. It's kind of like to make sure it's accountability and whatnot like that, right?
Well, no, actually, that's almost statewide on every state.
In some aspects, but there are ways around it. I've learned that. What I'm saying is, it just depends on how you go about it. Okay.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is like the military is very, very like fucking particular about it because they're like, no, this, because they, and in some aspects, depending on, if that person, a military member and the other one's civilian, I get it. They want to make sure that the kids are getting taken care of if the military member's gone and all around the world and that the kids are staying with the other parent stationary in one place, right?
yeah,
Shit gets crazy. But what I'm saying is like, I was given the fucking form and it's like, hey, this is what you need to do. I go to finance and I say, hey, I need to do this for my child support, right? Like we don't process it here. You have to send it directly to DFAST, defense, financial, whatever like that, right? It's like, so here's the number. Not the number. Here's the email. You'll just scan it and email to them. That we just don't do that locally. I was like, okay, cool. At least they gave me who to do it, right?
uh-huh.
I email to them. They email back. We don't process it here at the direct office, but here's the person that does it, and they give me another email. I'm like, okay, fine. I go to that email, and they're like, we don't do that here, and then I keep getting looped around for 5 months, and I'm trying to get this done. Now, granted, I ended up getting out of the military about a year after I got divorced, right? But after about 5 months of trying to do this the right way, versus the military needs me to, right? I have documented proof and I'm still giving her the child support I'm supposed to. I'm sending it to her and I have all the documentation, just in case, right? And they're not trying to come after me. Um, because I know it's like, well, wait, you have to wait till it starts getting garnished. Like, I'm not playing that game, right? I'm gonna make sure I'm giving the money. But I fucking gave up because they were making it so incredibly fucking horrific to deal with. Luckily, I got out, so I'm not. It wasn't one of those things of like, you never started this, and they're trying to hold me, accountable for it necessarily. But then Texas AG sends like a verification of child support if you're not using a state agency to track it, right? And
Yeah.
since that never got set up on my DFAST, there was nothing to prove that I was paying it. And so it showed that I owed like 18, 19 grand. I was like, bull motherfucking shit. So I started putting everything together. Luckily, my ex, because you have to get a form like, hey, she has to sign it saying, hey, yes, this is true that he paid all this. Now, luckily, you know, we were in a good position, good, co-parenting. Nothing was going crazy at the time. And, we're still doing good now, thankfully. But like, yeah, I think if you had a vindictive baby mama, which a lot of them are, she could have been like, no, this did not happen. And I would have been on the hook for another 20 grand, essentially 18, 19, 20 grand, because she could say, no, he didn't do this. And even if I took it to court to try to eventually win it, who's to know how much I'm going to spend in court fees and lawyer fees to prove it? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's insane. So
So every year, the state and federal government, they keep combined about $1.1 billion through the payment system and all that. And then depending on like, people that are late payment, the, percentage of late fees, and then plus $35 on every single case. And then you've got a transactionary fee and all that. But they keep over $1.1 billion per year out of child support payments. It says or it actually says 1 to 1 billion a year. And they're saying that's just to cover TANF. That's not including the late payment fees, processing fees. I apparently there's a bunch of fees. I'd have to dig deeper into this to try to figure out the exact number. But bro, they keep a lot of money. So, damn.
So regarding what I was saying earlier about like there's ways around it, right? Because for a while, like in my decree, there's so you have the state that will send out a letter to your employment to garnish your check, right? Which is what I
Mhm.
have set, which what I have now, right? When I first started my job, that wasn't happening, right?
Yeah.
Um, and apparently the finance person at my job wasn't supposed to do this. They were just kind of helping me out at the time. Because I had got my decree adjusted, granted that I got out of the military and, moved here and I'm a civilian now. So I got a few adjustments done. Again, there was no big fight about it. Thankfully, she understood and, it was a really simple process, right? But court order to my finance person to say, "Hey, look, this is what's going to happen." There's another child support like type of site that Texas uses and tracks. Like they use that as like a secondary. I was using that site where it would auto draft from my account, go through there, so Texas would account for it, and then deposit directly to her, right? And the best part about that is it wasn't doing the little bit from each check every week to the total amount. It was just at the beginning of the month, my full amount for the month. That way I wasn't just divvied out for the entire, over the weeks because it gets quite annoying, right? And with the through the garnishment going through the Texas AG, the way it goes through their system, it could take days or maybe a week for that first garnishment of my week of a check from a week to finally get deposited to her from just that 1 week. Like it's just such a shitty system and it takes forever,
Oh,
right?
damn.
Versus the other system, it would go through, it would auto draft on the first, and then maybe 2 or 3 days later, once it went through the system, it would get deposited as a whole, and then she was good, right? And therefore, it was like, cool, all done, accounted for, no issues. Now, but when they sent the updated, when things got updated and they sent a new order to my employer, I started getting garnished again. I was like, what the fuck? This is not supposed to happen. And I started messaging with the AG office. And so the reason being, and the way you can get around this, right? Because in our decree, it says like I will use this system, the other secondary system through Texas to track my child support payments, right?
Mhm.
And it was agreed upon on the judge, right? Everything signed for, and me and her, everything was fine. Um, but given this is what's so stupid. The reason that I have to fall under the wage garnishment is it's like if she is quote unquote receiving services by the Texas AG, then it's required by law that I get my wages garnished. And we were kind of like, what do you mean receiving services? Like she's not receiving any like services from the AG specifically. So like, what does that mean? Right. And it's like, and in our decree, it says that we'll use this system, not have my check garnished. Like we're trying to understand why this is happening. Right. And basically the child support order, that opens a case with the Texas AG just by, automatic, right? The fact that that case is, the child support order is open as a from the case, that qualifies as quote unquote receiving services from the Texas AG.
That's
So
wild.
exactly. So they said, and she says she has. I don't know if to what extent, but if she contacts the Texas AG and closes that case, like per from them, then my check can stop getting garnished that way. Now that doesn't mean that that takes her off the hook, from me paying
Yeah.
child support because in our decree I said that I would do it this other way. Right now, obviously, I stopped doing it that way because they're garnishing my fucking check. But that's how you can
Mhm.
get around it. As long as the case for the Texas AG is closed, you can go through other methods. So that's how I figured that out.
Okay. Which, what's fucking insane is, look, if a guy or the child support payer, I'm not even gonna say guy, if the child support payer loses their job, they're still on the hook for that full amount for, however long sometimes it takes
They
years to
have to
get your
get into
shit.
fucking court as
Yeah.
soon as possible to get that because until they go to court and get that like addressed and changed legally on paper,
Mhm.
like there's no escaping it. Like you're still on the hook for
Yeah,
however that amount is, which is stupid.
which is crazy to me because look, if life happens in a household, whether it's a layoff, someone gets fired, someone gets hurt at work and can't work, or, anything can happen. If you're in a family household, your family adjusts and they budget accordingly. Why is it that if a, child support payer loses their job, they may be filing, and I've talked to a lot of guys about this. They'll file over and over again, like, to emergency situation to look over their child support, like an adjustment, all that. And they may go over a year before hearing anything back. Like, that's fucking insane.
Again,
Like,
it's I don't want to say it's an abuse of the system. It's a neglect of the system, is what it is.
kind of like the VA.
Yeah, right. It's a neglect of the system because it's like I guess two can be true. It's abuse and neglect of the system. There's tons
Yeah.
of these fucking getting abuse of the system in the entire family court system as a whole across the country. But obviously, we talk about Texas because that's where we are. But across the country, the family court system has to be, in my mind, destroyed, burnt to the ground, and completely rebuilt from the ground up because there's just nothing salvageable about it. It's completely corrupt and one sided, right?
Oh, yeah.
And again, I'm not against the idea of child support. What I am against is that there's not enough factors taken into account, right? Like there
Yeah.
can be child support if if the factors align to the right points, right? Like it can't just be like, okay, cool, blah 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 blah. You're on the hook for child support. It's like, but hold up, like you just determining that factor, like like I don't get to argue a case here of why that one maybe I shouldn't have to pay child support, or two maybe I shouldn't have to pay that fucking much child support. Like you're just gonna
Yeah.
determine that automatically without a case. Like it's just like, well, that's just what the guidelines say. Well, you ever think your guidelines are fucking wrong? How about that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I pay out the ass in child support. Plus, I pay health and all the health insurance and all that bullshit. Like, that shit's expensive. Like, that shit's way fucking. I think I pay 1,800 a month in health insurance. Plus, I'm not going to say the amount that I pay in child support, but